Grammy-nominated musician John Forté has been found dead at just 50 years old in his Massachusetts home. From chart-topping hits to shocking legal battles, his life was anything but ordinary. And now, his sudden death is sending shockwaves through the music world. What really happened in those final moments, and what secrets from his past might be coming to light? Stay tuned, because the story behind John Forté's life and untimely death is far more complicated than anyone realizes. John Forté wasn't just any musician. He was a Grammy-nominated talent whose work left a mark on hip-hop and beyond. From producing hits with the Fugees to crafting his own critically acclaimed albums, Forté's career seemed destined for greatness. But behind the music, there was a story filled with highs, lows, and shocking twists, including run-ins with the law, personal struggles, and moments that shocked fans around the world. In this video, we're diving deep into the life and sudden death of John Forté. You'll get the full story, from his rise to fame, the controversies he faced, to the shocking circumstances surrounding his death in his Massachusetts home at age 50. We'll explore the facts, uncover little-known details, and piece together the events that made his story so extraordinary. By the end, you'll understand not just what happened, but the life and legacy of a man who left an indelible mark on music and culture. Early life and rise to fame. John Forté was born on December 30th, 1975, in Brownsville, Brooklyn, a neighborhood known for its toughness and resilience. From a young age, Forté showed an extraordinary talent for music. But his journey wasn't easy. Growing up in an environment filled with challenges, he found solace in rhythm and rhyme, writing lyrics and producing beats that reflected his life experiences. By his late teens, Forté's talent had started turning heads. He wasn't just another aspiring rapper. He was a musician who could blend storytelling, melody, and social commentary in ways that felt authentic and compelling. His big break came when he connected with the Fugees, one of the most influential hip-hop groups of the 1990s. Collaborating with Lauryn Hill, Wyclef Jean, and Pra Michelle, Forté contributed to the group's groundbreaking album, The Score, which would go on to become a global phenomenon. But even as fame started to shine on him, the pressures of the industry and the expectations of success began to mount. Forté was a complex individual, a creative genius navigating fame, artistic ambition, and personal challenges all at once. Friends and collaborators often described him as brilliant yet enigmatic, someone whose talents were sometimes overshadowed by the chaos around him. And just as his career seemed poised for unstoppable success, life threw him a curveball that would change everything. Forté's name would soon appear not on album covers or Billboard charts, but in court documents and news headlines, an unexpected twist that left fans shocked and the music world talking. But what exactly happened? And how did a rising star go from Grammy stages to legal battles and public scrutiny? We'll uncover that shocking chapter in the next section. Legal troubles and controversies. As John Forté's career continued to rise, life outside the studio began to take a darker turn. By the late 1990s and early 2000s, Forté's talent was undeniable, but so were the challenges he faced. Behind the scenes, the pressures of fame, the temptations of the music industry, and personal decisions would collide in ways that no one could have predicted. In 2000, Forté's life took a shocking turn when he was arrested in connection with a serious legal case involving drug trafficking. The news stunned fans and industry insiders alike. Here was a Grammy-nominated artist, a creative force who had worked with some of hip-hop's biggest names, suddenly facing years behind bars. The charges were severe, and the court documents painted a picture of a young man caught between the allure of quick money and the reality of the law. Forté's trial and eventual sentencing made headlines, marking a low point in what had been a promising career. He was sentenced to nearly 14 years in federal prison, a period that forced him to step away from music entirely. For many, it was hard to reconcile the image of the talented, charismatic artist with the reality of the charges and incarceration. Yet those who knew him often emphasized that this period, while devastating, also shaped Forté in profound ways. Prison, as Forté later reflected, became a crucible for transformation. He didn't just serve time, he used the experience to reflect, grow, and eventually plan a return to music. Behind bars, he wrote, composed, and honed his skills in ways few could imagine, turning adversity into creative energy. And when he was finally granted clemency in 2010, thanks in part to advocacy from prominent figures in the music industry, he re-emerged into the public eye not as a cautionary tale, but as a resilient artist determined to rebuild his legacy. However, the story didn't end with his release. Forté's return to music was met with both excitement and scrutiny. Fans celebrated his comeback, but the shadow of his past never fully disappeared. Every performance, every new project carried the weight of history, the successes, the mistakes, and the struggles that had defined his life. It was a delicate balance, reclaiming a career while navigating the lingering consequences of earlier choices. And yet, despite these challenges, Forté continued to innovate. He collaborated with a range of artists, exploring new sounds and themes, often reflecting on redemption, creativity, and the highs and lows of life in the spotlight. But just as he seemed to be stabilizing his life and career, another unexpected shock was waiting, a turn of events that no one saw coming. The very life he had fought to reclaim would soon come to a sudden, tragic end. What exactly happened in those final moments in his Massachusetts home? And were there warning signs that something was wrong? The next section uncovers the mysterious and heartbreaking circumstances surrounding John Forté's untimely death, a chapter that has left fans and the music community grappling with disbelief. Tragic death and public reaction. On the morning of January 13, 2026, shocking news broke across social media and news outlets. John Forté had been found dead in his Massachusetts home at the age of 50. Fans, colleagues, and the music world at large were stunned. How could a man who had survived so many trials, rising to fame, facing long prison sentences, and rebuilding his career, die so suddenly? The circumstances were murky at first, with authorities releasing minimal details while investigations continued. Forté's death immediately sparked questions and speculation. Was it a sudden health crisis, an accident, or something more complex that only those closest to him understood? While the official cause of death has not been fully disclosed publicly, the reaction from fans and fellow artists made one thing clear. Forté had left an indelible mark, and his passing was deeply felt across generations. Social media exploded with tributes, memories, and shock. Many recalled his work with the Fugees, highlighting the timeless songs he helped create. Others remembered his solo projects, which reflected his growth, introspection, and the resilience he had cultivated during and after his time in prison. Commentators emphasized the unique duality of Forté's life. He was both a brilliant musician and a man who had faced public scrutiny, mistakes, and personal struggles. In the days following his death, old stories resurfaced. Interviews, past performances, and legal battles were revisited, reminding the public of the journey that brought him to this point. Some fans noted that despite the obstacles, Forté had continued to innovate, collaborate, and mentor younger artists, proving that even after hardship, creativity could flourish. But with his death came unanswered questions that have left the music community on edge. How did he spend his final days? Were there struggles behind the scenes that no one saw? And what will his legacy look like in the long term, defined by his talent, his trials, or the suddenness of his passing? These questions linger, creating a profound sense of both loss and intrigue. Yet, in the midst of tragedy, Forté's contributions remain undeniable. His work continues to inspire, from the golden era of 1990s hip-hop to the present day, bridging generations and reminding fans of the power of music to overcome adversity. As we reflect on his life, one truth stands out. John Forté was more than headlines and controversies. He was a creative force, a survivor, and a storyteller whose life, full of highs and lows, will never be forgotten. John Forté's life was a story of brilliance, struggle, and resilience. From his early days in Brooklyn to his Grammy-nominated collaborations with the Fugees, he achieved what many only dream of. But his journey was far from smooth. Legal battles, personal challenges, and public scrutiny tested him at every turn. Yet he continued to create, innovate, and inspire. His sudden death at 50 leaves a void in the music world and countless questions about the final chapter of his life. But even in tragedy, his legacy remains powerful, a reminder of the heights of artistic talent, the consequences of choices, and the resilience required to rise again after life knocks you down. As fans, we can celebrate John Forté, not just for the music he made, but for the life he lived, full of lessons, triumphs, and human complexity. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more in-depth stories on trending and controversial topics, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you remember most about John Forté? What impact did his music have on you? We want to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned, because the music world is full of stories like this, and you won't want to miss the next one.